What's up, everybody? Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And in this video, we got to talk about some crazy changes that is happening to Valorant right now that could mark the end of Valorant. It could be a really bad thing, or it could open up a ton of new possibilities for the game. So we got to talk about it and break it down. Make sure to check out the GameLeap website if you want to climb, and we're going to jump right in. Now, Valorant has been having a very successful esports scene for quite some time. We've been watching teams being formed, broken down, we've saw dominance, and we've saw disappointment, but all in all, Valorant has just had a really nice run in the esports scene. It's looking like the game is really lively, it's looking like the esport is very healthy, and with it breaking a lot of records and it doing incredibly well even right now at Masters Copenhagen, it's looking like Valorant is here to stay for the long haul. Now, not only do we learn a lot from watching pro play, but for the casual viewer, you need to understand that having a lively esport is one of the best things that a game can have to just be a game that is played and developed for a very long time. When games like League of Legends are still being developed and still healthy, they even are making goddamn TV shows that are popular around it and doing constant updates, that's a really good sign, and we want Valorant to succeed in a very similar way. But they're doing something a little bit interesting here. They are going to be franchising Valorant. And for those of you who don't know what that means, basically there are slots in an official league, like a league where people come in person, in LANs, a huge league. And there was something very similar to this in the Overwatch League. They did it a bit different by trying to basically assign teams to certain regions where orgs didn't have their names anymore. Instead, it was like the Dallas Fuel. Instead of actually being Envy, they had to, be the Dallas Fuel. And that's just one example. But basically, what that did is it really pushed the entire league up in quality. It made for really nice streams. It made for really high pieces of production. And it looked really pretty and it was really cool. But there always is some amount of sacrifice to doing this. And the big thing is there's a huge disparity between the teams that get into a league and the teams that do not. If you don't get into the big boys club, all of a sudden, no one cares about a small tier 2, tier 3 tournament when it's not the big franchise tournament. And often cases, there is even caps on the amount of money that can be in the prize pool for non-league related tournaments. That's what they did in Overwatch, and it heavily neutered the tier 2 scene. Now, when we go to Valorant, this means that if you're not an org that can make it into that tier 1 for whatever reason, whether your team's not good enough, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough connections, whatever the case may be, now, if you're in tier 2, you are so far from that tier 1 now. It makes it so a ton of teams are going to get eliminated. And we actually got a report from George G. He basically reported out that so far, TSM, The Guard, and Cloud9 are ones that are shortlisted for the partnership. And before it was actually announced that there was going to be 6 for North America, there might be more. There is potential for expansion. But if we think about, who would be 100% here, right? If TSM, The Guard, and Cloud9 are for sure in, hypothetically, then you add in Sentinels, and I know some people are going to be like, oh, Sentinels isn't doing that well, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. They are one of the most popular, if not the most popular team. They're going to be in. 100 Thieves, 100% going to be in. And then Optic is like the best team in North America right now. If they're in, that's 6 slots. Think about all the teams that wouldn't make it in. Where the heck is FaZe? Where the heck is freaking Xset that is actually there right now in Copenhagen? Like, they did get eliminated, but they were there. And, it just seems like there's a ton of teams that just aren't gonna all be able to fit. And the thing is, we're seeing what happens when teams don't make it. Right now, we're seeing a lot of crazy teams just completely pull out of Valorant. Knights has completely just pulled out almost. They're trying to sell their main roster and promote their academy team. So they're cutting costs, they're cutting their team members, and they're probably going to start selling either parts of their roster or their entire roster to someone else. And on top of that, we're seeing other stuff, like Accru is doing a very similar thing, where Accru is set to release its Valorant roster. They made an announcement that they are basically just completely pulling out until something is announced about the tier 2 scene. And this really means that it's in Riot's corner. If Riot doesn't do something really legitimately established and filled out for tier 2, all of a sudden, we're gonna see, you know, only those top teams that participate in the main, you know, franchise league, and we're not gonna see much else. Now, of course, even if 6 is not the cap, let's say it's 8 or whatever the case may be, there's always room to expand later down the line, and they probably will as things ramp up. But the reality of the situation is there still needs to be some incentive for tier 2 to grind, and there needs to be some way that tier 2 can prove itself. I think that having some sort of tier 2 big league that still gets people's eyes, some sort of, you know, tier 2 huge league that in a way they also compete against some of the tier 1 big teams as well, and they can like prove themselves and find a way to, you know, basically play their way into the league, something like that. There has to be something, some reason for these orgs to actually want to put in time, put in effort, put in money, because they know that it's actually a worthwhile investment rather than just being stuck in this tier 2 abyss. And we know that some of this is going to be tied to some sort of tournament system that Riot has already said inside the game. There's going to be a tournament system that can actually lead towards the path to pro, but there needs to be something more for, you know, more established teams, more established orgs, and it's really in Riot's corner right now. We have all-star caster Golden Boy actually talking about this on Twitter, saying, quote, "I'm cautiously optimistic about Riot's plans for the partner leagues. That said, there needs to be communication sooner rather than later regarding what will happen to tier 2 community. Esports doesn't work when it's built from the top down. Grassroots is key." And this is 100% true. Grassroots is always the way to actually fully develop the talent and fully develop an esport. And a lot of people are saying that Valorant and Riot might be jumping the gun here. We do know that Valorant is really big and it has had some time to develop, but a lot of times, the more time, the better. The longer you have for these things to kind of organically grow out, the more stable the bottom part of the community is. But if Riot can successfully implement, you know, a tournament system that leads from tier 3 into tier 2, some sort of tier 2 system that actually gets the teams that do well in there some exposure and a way to work their way into the main league and an ever-expanding main league year after year, that's the formula that I think if anyone's gonna pull it off, it's gonna be Riot. And I want to put my faith in Riot for the most part because they seem to be one of the just most consistent, reliable, and successful companies, period. I've just been disappointed by basically every single other company in all of gaming right now besides Riot, and for that I'm really, really grateful, of course. But I do think that Golden Boy kind of hit the nail on the head here, where transparency is key, and if there's no transparency, it's gonna leave a lot of these teams just like selling off the rosters, pulling out, when maybe there's actually enough incentive for them to stick around if Riot puts those incentives in place. But I really want to hear your opinion about this. For those of you who consistently follow the esports scene, how do you feel about the franchising? How do you feel about the budgets getting bigger and things getting, you know, more serious and really high quality? How do you feel about that? That's gonna be cool, but is it worth what it's costing? And for those of you who don't really watch esports at all, what are you doing? Come on, watch the damn esport. But anyways, go to the GameLeap website for tips, tricks, guides, and everything you need to pop off and dominate. We've been pumping out some new guides that are definitely going to help you based on every single weapon. So if you want to dominate, go check it out right now down below.